Right then. So, one of those funny little forgotten stories of First Strike was Team Liquid. They were the first great team in Europe under the Fish 123 moniker. A consensus top 4 or 5 team coming into this event. Played against Team Heretics in the quarterfinals. Scream dropped 39 kills in the final map. Liquid lost the map. What the hell just happened? And it's worth... I think this is an interesting thing to explore, both for what it means for Scream, both for what it means for Team Liquid, what it means for how Heretics played, how they were able to sort of head that off, and just an understanding of sort of how the game is evolving and how the meta is evolving in general. So let's get into it. So start out with, very nice thing. I don't know how recently they added this, but one thing you can do on VLR now, in addition to having all the nice little stats here, VLR.gg, you can see which rounds everybody got 2K, 3K, 4K, 5-1. So if you click Scream had 4 4Ks in this game, which obviously in itself, that's the thing. And we can see rounds 4, 5, 16, 23. As happens, we can see he had 1 clutch, 1v1 against Lowell, which he won in round 3. Okay, so whatever. So, I think the best place to start, what the hell happened in those rounds? Right, so round 3 to start out with. Heretics took, to explain in case you really don't know what's going on here, Heretics took really minimal losses round 2. They had 3 alive at the end. And they do what a lot of teams do in that situation. If you won the first 2 rounds, you're in a weird position the third a lot of the time, because you can see 3,200, 3,700, 3,400, 3,200. You don't have full buy money, right? So you treat it as a bonus round. If you win, great, you're in an overpowering economic situation at that point. If you lose, oh well, you've got about, well, for example, if Lowell would have 3,200 plus 1,900 here next round, so he would have 5,100. That will get you a buy next round. That should get you a buy the round afterwards as well, with the lost bonus money if things go badly. So great. So Liquid should know here we've got the range advantage. And they play pretty slow. You can see Brimstone and Sova just sort of playing for vision, playing for that on the bathrooms. They're not going to occupy bathrooms. Jet on the left side with Breach, she is going to eventually try and move up Garden. And then Killjoy just in the middle. We can push forward, and they don't do anything around until 30 seconds to go, basically. At which point, with Jet in position on that, she just dashes sight. The other 2 push hooker at the same time. I think she dashes sight anyway. Yeah, she dashes sight, gets the kill. They mess it up massively in hooker. They pretty cleanly lose that 2v2, right? But in the end, they get the plant down, and they manage to win the clutch. It goes down to 1 alive in the end, which is Scream. Scream is playing back in the alley here. Remember that for later. It's a win nonetheless. So whatever. This was just 1 kill for him. But this was technically the only time he clutched out around, as it were. Okay, great. Straight on to round 4 then. Great, round 4. Again, TL played this one up pretty slow. They're pretty organised. Eccles is now teasing out 1 flank on the right. You can see over on A long. You got Jets over this home on the other. Same principle. We kind of want to get we're going to move. Screams just instantly popped ult there to try and see if he can just jump above, get a kill on long. Doesn't. Killjoy's held the middle. Then there's no push through the middle, so they're taking a rotation. And they pull off a pretty nice one here, right? He waits out the instant overall, which down on long, and once it's down, they push 1. Could have been 2, 3. So that's just to make sure you know what you've seen there. That is 2 kills with the classic headshot when he has a rifle. Scream does this all the time with Jay. He just runs around with a pistol because inaccuracy doesn't really matter on the classic if you can get into range of them. The classic is a nice gun. He gets a 3rd just timing his apartment push, and then he gets a 4th just cleaning up afterwards. You'll see. Well, yeah, you'll see in a second. He's pushing through here. Times against Niso. And I've managed to get through. Great. You see, just yeah, he sees the tip of the gun, as it were, and then just gets a fourth. Great, but good 4K. Round 5. Well, that last round was Ross versus Rifles, obviously. This round 5, it's not an eco, but they do actually go fairly low on it because they didn't get any kills, basically, right? In the end, so they're quite happy to stretch their economy out. And did you see that? Did you see the death? Because you'd be forgiven not to. Soft screen. Obviously, Avova shouldn't be doing that. I don't know why he's doing that. He has a stinger, for clarity. Scream's always going to take the open sight line here. So in there, he takes instant death. From then on, it's just, well, they have the ability to just push up. You can see they've got the sight line on bathrooms. They actually back off of long to go get this, but all the breach is kind of maintaining it still. Scream goes towards short this time. But they have every sight line on the map, right? Because they know they've got a very good range advantage. Heretics can have deagles, but they're not particularly scared of deagles. As it happens, Paul is the only one that actually has a deagle, and Paul's had a really bad game here because internet issues. So Heretics' response is, okay, well, we know Liquid like to rush sites a lot. We know teams can rush that sort of very long area, right? Particularly if Scream's playing now, particularly because we know how they play on Scream. So they go for it and they try and stack it in anticipation of that happening. It doesn't work. Scream gets a 4K. This is probably it's less impressive than the last 4K, but it's not bad, right? So great. Scream has 11 kills in 5 rounds. He's off to a good start. Now, the other 2 4Ks. So we've got one on round 16, which is here. You can see kind of weird buy versus half buy. But this is impressive. You're going to see what's happened here. So Heretics have a half buy. Heretics are going to rush up long. Scream's kind of doing this thing on the defense where he's of the 5 players, he has the least set position. He's not really here, but he is just going from side to side to side. This aggressive rotation is almost over rotation that a lot of people bag on. For example, Mixwell on. He just got the kill straight up there on the walk. Even then moves back into alley. Heretics never managed to get elbow control here mainly because Nuki is in the wrong place. Right, the only person who can really get control here is somebody who can move or teleport whatever into the elbow itself, because you can't really just run. You can't really just walk in there if they're able to hang back. Nuki doesn't. Nuki is playing way back in long, so they never actually get control, and they kind of fail on the retake because they win a duel there, right? And Scream gets his 3 kills, and Scream's going to get his 4th kill in a second. No, Heretics just fold there. Yeah, great, good stuff. And round 23. So, by the way, notice again that he is starting holding that frenzy, right? All he really does is he's holding above there against a potentially short push, against a long push. You can see both if they don't smoke off properly. And in the end, Pora kind of pushes through. Pora again not having a good day because it's internet issues mostly. Pops him. Goes well in there. There's only one. The ult's down. There's only one place they're going. Wipes them off. Great. Now, to give a little context here, if you're less familiar with the EU scene in general, right? So from throughout this team's lifespan, from when they were Fish 123 through to Fish 123, like Fish 123 in beta, through to Fish 123 in Ignition series, through to joining Liquid formally, this has been a pretty risk-adverse team. They didn't have that reputation in beta, but the key thing there was they had Ardis, and Ardis doesn't care. And that was the X factor from beta. They had 4 players who were playing black, they were playing very risk-adverse for the most part, and they had one guy who didn't care, would take every opening duel, understood the game on a far, far greater level than anybody else at that time. Generally was playing away from the for them anyway, and just made everyone a 5v4. And if you're a decent fundamental team, tactical shooter team, you should be able to win a lot of 5v4s, right? Now, when they had to then transition from Ardis to eventually Scream, The funny thing about Scream was, well, of course he was an entry player through and through in CS, right? But if you go and watch his early performances, both in terms of his performances with Mixwell on the Prodigy stacks and on Liquid in that Ignition series, oddly enough, that entry role was not something he initially embraced. He was hesitant. He was rarely the first man in. He wasn't leading his team in first bloods, anything like that. That's been something that's completely changed between specifically Ignition series and First Strike. This is completely different, and this was one of the slightly surprising things watching Liquid even in the playoffs, that he had taken on this entry-oriented role. And that part of this is probably because the entry guys in beta and during the early release periods, you had to do a lot of them were doing things with the AWP, right? Like a lot of them playing specifically Jet AWP, and it can't or won't pick your poison, doesn't really matter. Scream doesn't AWP, but now the AWP doesn't really do that anymore, right? Everyone's entering with rifles again. As much as it has a mimetic quality to it, at the end of the day, the man does tap heads. The mechanical talent in terms of the aim and in terms of the reaction is still there. And end of the day, look, you take advantage of that by putting him in position to tap heads. You put them on sight lines, like, for example, on B long. You put them on this showers thing, where you can't really touch him with utility if he's back here. You have to out-aim him, right? You let him work, you let him take control of those sight lines, you let him slowly move up towards garden, give him enough support to do so. You keep him the hell away from here, you keep him generally away from here as well. Like it's simple to the point of almost being facile, right? But this is how, like, if you have a player like Scream, this is how you make use of him. And Liquid have had to have an adaptation process, an adaptation period in this regard, but they're kind of getting there, right? The guy hasn't lost a step. The way that rifles work and the weakness of AWPs make it hunting season for him right now. And they've kind of got used to how you play him in this sort of mini artist role, right? Like, he's not doing all the things that artists could have done for them in the past, but he can do some of them. Just takes a rifle, has a point he's aiming for, taps in on that point. Very simple, but it's kind of been crucial. Now, for the second part here, Liquid lost this game in the end, right? And across those last 4 rounds of the game, Liquid had 2 kills. Well, no, Scream had 2 kills, rather, sorry. So what did Heretics do to stop it? Now, first round here, I'd kind of just breezed through because Heretics were on defense, Liquid on attack. Liquid started slow. Scream was on the sort of open line over A initially. They attacked site through short A. Scream got onto site. They waited for the over rotation. Came through. Still, they managed to win a duels against the retake this time for once. Easy enough, fine. The Scream doesn't really do too much here. No. This is just they play this very well. Like, Liquid can play rounds very fundamentally well when they want to, you know. So whatever. Now it's match point. Liquid on defense. Heretics on attack. Now you'll see what happens here. You have Brimstone Jet here. Liquid's rather Scream kind of sits back. He does eventually push through into bathrooms, and they're playing retake on B. You can see, right? You can see how tightly they're holding that corner. They saw the drone go out. They're not even trying to hold the sight lines onto window or on the sight lines onto long or anything like that. They're just playing for retake. Well, Jet and Brimstone, which is an interesting combination for this, would be to be explained. Brimstone does literally nothing in terms of that duo, I don't think, because what he offers really is a Molotov, which is it's good if you can aim it. It's kind of hard to get it into useful stitch positions, and he brings smokes, which Jet already has, so quite questionable, but whatever. They push through the bathroom, but they push through so slowly and so hesitantly that Heretics call their bluff. Heretics just take that site, and They can't get out of elbow now. Lowell does that every single time. Lowell will always seal elbow on B site when he's attacking with the Sage wall. They jump in, and I don't know if you saw it there, but watch the mini map. They're trying to play across, but then they never got control over here. So Niso just picks off screen, and they lose the round in the end. They're down 5v4 here already, but they don't win their duels. Whatever. Because of how I mean, a lot of this is just how far into the elbow Eccles and Solkas are playing, right? So back to tie, back to attack for Liquid. Now this time they don't try and play the flanks. They draw on hooker. They move for a quick short play. They rotate back round. Once again, screen will go onto the site first, and for once. See, he's having to wait and react, and he loses the duel because he's having to react, like he's having to wait for someone to come on his screen, right? It's one for one trade, I believe, in the end. Yeah, because he just gets that afterwards, fine. But Liquid don't really know what to do here at this point. I mean, they've gone forward that far, they're scared to even come up into the bathroom because they haven't even. They bleed out, right? They're one by one, they just sort of lose duels and they bleed out. So we're back to match point. It's time for Heretics. Thank you, replay, go away. This time, Liquid go for that super aggressive peak after very long. And they get, you see, he isn't even just trying to hold out, he's trying to just win this game. He's not even trying to, okay, walk into my rifle and I will kill you. He just goes for it. They get a 2-for-1 trade off of it, to be fair. But they fall for the same stuff on B. They're 4v3 here, but they're playing that incredibly deep elbow and that droning back in to get even some semblance of what the hell's going on. As soon as the drone goes down, bam, they're in. They don't believe anybody's on site. Well, they believe that they don't believe that anybody's outside the elbow. And they just out-aim on the retake. You can see it comes pretty close and just Pora in the end. Pora plays these super deep positions all the time. He goes from window, goes back round, catches them on long. Again, Pora a very, very, very smart player in this regard, but whatever. And it's GG. Now I don't want to focus too. I know I like to rag on Liquid sometimes, but I don't want to focus too much in terms of what did they do wrong. I will say that the sheer, apart from what I've already said, the sheer hesitancy of the other four to take over open looks after those first few rounds, even allowing for that incredibly conservative team comp, you can see like they've got what, Brimstone, Breach, Jet, Killjoy, Sova, single duelist comp, nobody who really even plays aggressively, whatever. Even allowing for that, the unwillingness to take open looks kind of speaks to something, but whatever. I don't want to focus too much on Liquid. But let's look at it another way. What did Heretics do really, really, really right in terms of pushing themselves over the top? And I actually think, apart from the ones we've seen, one round really tells a big story in this regard. This is round 9. So let's look at that. Focus on what's happening on the mini-map here, more so than anything else. So Niso immediately arrows into B short. Vova runs up to be long, runs back. And they judge that they haven't heard anything on long or short. It's not going to be a rush onto B. Great. They play elbow. They play a lot more aggressive on the elbow. You can see Vova actually looking outwards, and they're playing elbow as well. But you can see Sage has just slowly walked up here and put down the wall. I think it was about 130ish. So it will crumble at 50 seconds. It will 55 seconds. It will start getting lower towards that. I don't know if they actually knife. I don't actually know if they shoot or knife it here, but you can see what's happening in a minute, right? Lower's not just walked away from that wall. He's got back behind that wall, waited for an out of health. Brought Niso over. Niso's drone just to be sure they're not hiding in that spot. And now he's saying, right, we're going to test your backside. we're gonna contact peek your backside, and Soulcast is on the backside, so it works. It's a close run thing, but it works, right? Now Scream gets through to apartments in that fracas, but he can't guarantee apartments are clear. He has no dash 2 jumps, so he kind of wants to play back onto site. He can't see, like, if you go back to specific, like, look at what he's looking at here, right? Look how many spots people are, and 2, how many spots people can just kind of appear from here. He can't see cubby, he can't see window, or heaven rather. He knows at least 1 has pushed through through bathrooms, probably 2. So this guy is coming back from here. And this goes to hell, right? In the end, in the course of about 30 seconds. Bam, bam. I think Link, or as I said, Link gets 1 more, yeah, but then goes down. 3 alive for Heretics. Not even close, really. Disaster of a round with equal money, or for equal buys. And this kind of speaks to 2 things in particular, which Heretics are very good at, that disrupt this sort of liquid thing where you're basically waiting on 1 pick to gear the situation positively towards you. Because ultimately, while there's Liquid are playing more sophisticated than Teams and Beta did, there's still that kind of that root of that fish 1, 2, 3. Okay, we just want to play a 5v4 each round, and we're going to find a way to make a 5v4 work. And first that way was Ardis, now that way is Scream, right? Alright, 2 things. The first thing is picking appropriate lurks and lurking as a duo or even trio, right? Because when we think lurking in Valorant, we think of basically 1 player, generally something like a Cypher or a Sage, to be honest, just walking through and just getting behind you. I think of the plays that Link used to do on Sage, for example, or think of Happy on Sage or Raze still, or think of Pora. This was about individual lurks, right? But I think the reality is that the nature of abilities in Valorant is that the crucial thing is that it is very quickly gone beyond understanding what you can do as an individual and agent. Because apart from anything else, your toolkit is just limited enough that you can't really just go out as one, right? But you need to understand how you work in a tandem with your teammate on specific agent in terms of how you layer abilities, how you can push to gain control of something genuinely contestable and worth contesting, areas like A bathrooms or B long, for instance. And you're basically asking who outlasts who. Like, it's like if you're playing chess and it's like, okay, well, if I make this move, like if I move this rook, he'll take rook, I'll take rook, he'll take rook, I'll take queen, that sort of thing, right? Where it's just like you're setting it up so you lose 5 pieces and you lose 4 pieces and he loses 5, right? And I think this is going to become more and more of a thing because consider someone like Skye, right? With her 3 flashes, her granular healing, her non-ult seeker, her ult seeker. She's actually an agent that doesn't work particularly well individually, but she has insane potential of how she works with a lot of other agents, like as a duo. Particularly someone like Ohm is obviously the most obvious example, right? This is going to become more of a thing, not less, is what I'm saying. They're not going to make kits where you just do stuff on your own, but they are going to make it so I think they are going to ramp up the general ability space on kits to the point where 2 agents can do ridiculous things together, right? And understanding sort of the intricacies of that has been particularly been a big part of Lowell getting to where he has been, right? Because Lowell, I don't know when he started, I presume he started playing from beta, but in terms of playing Valorant on a competitive level, he wasn't in early tournaments as far as I know. I really hope, I'm not going to look that up, I really hope I'm not wrong, but I do not remember him in early tournaments at all. But he's very quickly come to the point where he's a top 10 player in Europe. And it's not just because he's got great aim, but it's not just because he's got great aim, it's because he revived Sage, right? But why is that important? Because Sage is one of those agents who does work very, very well with a lot of different pairs of agents in that way, right? And I think his grasp of that tandem ability usage it's gotten to a very high level very quickly, and I think it will be a big differentiator going forward. It'll be really interesting to see certain other players sort of warm to that, right? Okay, well, the other thing is, in one way or another, forcing teams to check, I would say multiple angles, or teams and players to check, not multiple angles, but certainly multiple spots, right? Like you saw with that scream sort of look there, right? Putting yourself in a team in a defensive situation, so that is going to be really important, and this is why one of the reasons Heretics are so good at it, because in particular Nisa and Pora are really good at instinctually putting themselves in places to force those really difficult decisions. And I mean, remember, one of the things that we all know about this game is that the movement is kind of topsy-turvy, right, compared to what we're used to. Like, on the one hand, people focus on, well, it's probably easier than it should be to hit shots on the move. Sure. On the other hand, it's far harder than it should be to essentially jiggle pick and stuff like that, right? Because of just how the movement works and that sort of thing. I think compared to CS, that unpredictability of positioning is far more important with regards to the successful defensive team. And again, Heretics, you can question whether or not they're the number one team in Europe. I think I probably would have them as number one team on the basis of, but obviously roster system is probably going to make that all irrelevant, but whatever. But I don't think you can argue they are definitely the number one team in Europe in terms of how they play a defensive side of maps. And it is a case of a lot of their players just seem to understand this on a basically instinctual level, right? And I think that's going to be something to watch for over the next few months, because I do think to a certain extent it's also more so going to start influencing like composition and the like as well, I think, to be fair. But yeah, just a few thoughts I had about looking through that game, just on both Liquid and Heretics, and sort of the state of the game moving forward.